Howdy painters. P.S. Don't drink the paint water. Very important. All right, so today we are going to be doing the moon scene that was very, very popular. So this was like the rainbow theme since we have the 518 rainbow going on. So what we're going to need, a bowl, or it could be a plate, depending on what size you're using for this. So this is a smaller canvas, so I'm using a smaller bowl. If I was to use a 16 by 20, I would actually use a full plate. So you're just going to go ahead and find out where you're going to put it. You're going to have enough room for the sky. And then what we're going to do down below here is we will not go past this. So we're going to take our pencil and we're just going to trace from one side to the next. It's going to be halfway. All right, so you don't need to go any further than halfway. If you do, just take your eraser and just give that a little erase. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take that pencil. It could be mechanical, it could be a regular pencil, just something that has an eraser that you can erase if you make a boo-boo. And we're going to have a total of 4 mountains. So we're going to go right up. This is going to be the moon. We're going to go right on up. So just go ahead and give a little, like my mountains to be just a little different. And you could go, if you make a boo-boo, just go ahead and give it a little, just give a little correction. Okay, so my next layer of mountains, they can even go right on over. So this one right here is going to be the top one. I get to erase that line. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. And this little guy, this is the 4th. Okay, this will be the 4th. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you don't have to go all the way out. You can if you want to. We're going to have these little cliffs coming on in. All right, so what we're going to do from here is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the pencil. I want to go a little bit bigger than what I think I'm going to do. So it's going to be smaller back here, because when it comes towards us, we want it to grow in size. And so that gives you that feeling like it's moving from a long distance. Okay, so if you just kind of right back here. All right. So if you would like, you can even go wider as it's coming over here. If you need to do this part. If you don't, we're going to do it with our paint also. So if you want to try it with the paint, just the paint itself, just going to go through and erase, because I particularly like to do paint, but there's definitely, if you're a perfectionist, you're going to want to see it ahead of time. And if you can see, this canvas is pretty well beat up. Seen better days. And I'm going to show you that even a beat up canvas, you can cover it all and it will look like brand new. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do, we want to go right into that moon. And we're going super, super bright colors. So we're going to go yellow. Oh, I forgot to show you this. So I used this earlier with the kids, and I'm just reusing some of the colors. So we've got yellow and orange. We've got red, white, blue, green. You don't need brown, but there was brown left over, and we have black. Okay, so we're going to go in yellow, maybe touch my orange, and I want to go right on back. Now for your size brushes, it's really dependent on what size canvas you're using. This is I think it's 8 by 10 canvas. I usually use this size when I work with large groups of little kids and with our seniors. Okay, so I'm going just about part way on up. I'm going to grab some of my orange with my yellow. You want these guys to blend right on in. To make these guys blend, all I'm going to do is just nice and gentle. You can always hit up, so say your orange goes too far, or if it's too orangey for your feel, just clean off the brush, wipe it on down, and go right back into the painting and just give it a couple gentle pulls. Okay, so all I'm going to do, take my brush, I'm going to dab it off just a little. I'm going to go in with a touch of my red. Now you could keep oranges. This one has a very ominous kind of feel to it. So I'm going to go red. I still have my orange and my yellow in there. And if you need it to blend a little bit more, if you take just a little bit of water, you can hit it right on up. Okay, so if you want it to be, say, a little bit softer here, you could go in with a touch of your white with your yellow. And say, like, feel like you went up too far, too far down with your orange, go right back in with your yellow. Acrylic is super forgiving. All right, so we have a nice kind of fiery globe right now. Maybe it's a harvest moon. This particular color for our next is going to be green. Now, if you're going to use the same brush, I want you to go ahead and clean it. Take your water. If you're drinking something, don't dip it in your drink. It doesn't taste very good. You could go in different size of brushes. Okay, so this is all about comfort's sake. There is no right or wrong brush when it comes to just putting the paint up. So I'm going to go in with my green. Now, if the green is, if you want it to be a little bit on the lighter side, if you do a little bit of yellow with it, you could also do just a touch of your white. Okay, and here is my just moving around. Kind of looks like a dolphin over here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead, wipe off my brush. I don't even have to dip it in my water. Just give it a little wipe off. We're going to go in with our blue. So if you get that blue-green kind of feel, it looks like it transitions a little bit better. Or if you pull some of your green on accident, not a big deal. Okay, so these are a little rounded. I'm just going to go ahead and give them a more sharper kind of feel. And see how it kind of blends together. It kind of gives you a really kind of pretty color. Okay, so now I get to go ahead. I'm going to clean off the brush, dance in my water, wipe her on down. Now our next color is going to be blue and red, which will make a little purple. Now, if you need it to be a little bit brighter, go in with a little touch of your white. And because blue and red are friends, it's okay if you kind of hit up just a little bit over the other mountain. Just as long as you're not pulling too much of that green. Now, it's okay if you want to go past your space. You don't have to stay right and within that line. Okay, so I'm just going to blend it on in a little bit. Give it a little. I'm actually being very textured with the brush. Just give it a little pull. Now our next is just using that purple. And we go baby touching my black. We want it on the darker side. And this will be the darkest part. It's almost like a black, but you definitely can tell there is some color. And this will be the furthest away from you. Okay, so remember how we talked about the river. The river will flow back and forth. Now, I like to use a flat brush. This is based off of your size of your canvas. It's like a medium size for my regular parties. But because I'm using an 8x10, this is kind of a bigger brush. Now, if you want to use a bigger brush, go for it. And the cool part is back here, you're going to go a little bit bigger with your river than you normally would. So what that does is we could go back through and cover it up afterwards. So it's okay to go a little bit bigger. You have my permission. Okay, this brush, the very first color I'm going to take is white and blue. Okay, so kind of skipping over these mountains, kind of going into that blue kind of color. Just taking it back and forth. And it's okay if you go a little bit bigger first. Going back and forth. Now our next color mountain is going to be green. Just taking a little bit of green with my white and blue. See, it's okay to go a little bit bigger. And I like to make sure it has a little bit of a curve to it, almost like an S curve. This gives you flow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean off my brush, get some of my water, tap it off. Okay, so our next colors we're going into is our yellow. And it's okay if the blue, green hits that yellow. I'm going to take that brush, clean it off one more time, wipe her down. So the most important thing is to make sure it's just not wet and running. I'm going to go yellow and my orange. Now we don't want yellow and orange and green to hit up, because that doesn't make a pretty color. Then I could grab a little bit of my red, and I like to go a touch of my white. I'm going to make a little bit of my pink. I'm going right back and forth. Okay, so you can kind of see how it goes from small to biggest. If you're using a smaller canvas, you'd probably go almost all the way. Now, if these feel like they're not flowing right, I'm going to clean off my brush, wipe her on down, and use the same one. I'm going to go in with my white, just a little. Go in with just a touch more. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a couple little pulls. You could also do a little back and forth little S curve or a little zigzag. And these will help these guys kind of blend on in. All right, so we have our water. They're based off the colors. If back here, say you want a little purple in there, just going red, touching my blue. You give just a couple little pulls of purple. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we get to go in, we're gonna fill in our sky. You can use the same brush if you like, just clean it off. White and blue, red and blue. We're gonna make a beautiful purple, very deep. So we go right up to the sides. I'm gonna, if I load the brush, maybe I quite a bit on it, push right on down, nice and hard. Okay, I'm just gonna put it right on. It's the only part you really have to, I wouldn't say hold your breath because nobody wants to hold their breath. But you're just a little bit more, and this is with a little bit more reds. So you can see how it takes on a different color of your purples. This is heavier in the blues. It's good to see the difference. Okay, so we've got our sky done. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in, you clean off the brush, give it a little wipe down, we're gonna go black. So I'm gonna go right up to my moon first on both of my sides. So it's almost where your mountains are. And we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna fill in with our black on both of our sides. Now, when it comes to the water, I like to take the skinny part of the brush and just give me a little pull. Once this is all covered, I like to make sure this is covered first. It makes it much easier. And then just taking the skinny part of the brush. So if there's a part, remember how we said we could go bigger? Now, if there's a part that you want to go ahead and make it smaller now, this is how we're doing it with our black. So I like to cut in, see how I'm cutting in just a little bit more. So this way it kind of gives a little flow back here. I have perfection out the window. I know I say that all the time, but it's so the truth. There is, unless you're doing buildings in landscape, there's so much area to just move. So you can keep it just the way it is right now. If you want it to come in a little bit further, go ahead and give a couple more little pulls. Now you can make it a little bit more rounded. This is a little bit more rounded on this side compared to this side. As it gets closer to you, this is where your perfectionism will take over, and that's all right. All right, so once you are happy with what it looks like and where it's flowing, we're going to go back up into here. Now, this will be our cliffs. So I'm just kind of going in flat with the brush, giving a couple little pulls. And yes, we will end up covering over some of our mountains, all of that hard work. Right up through, just covering it on up. Now, it does have this little canyon kind of feel, and that if you would like to keep it that way, you could also just making a little land back here where we could do little trees. So I'm just going to wipe off any excess black I've got. And all I'm going to do, just giving a little tap. Just kind of pulling what is there. Straight up and down with that medium brush. See, it's a medium flat, and you can see it even kind of separates just a little bit for you. All right. Right on down. So these look like trees really far off in the distance. They're very subtle, but it does give you a feel of depth when you kind of pull it on in. So our next is we're going to go build the bigger trees, green and black. So I have a lot of black in my brush. I'm just basically grabbing my green. And this will be on the dark side. So you do want it darker. So if you would like a little tree kind of popping on up, on over, and I'm just using just the corner. So that very, very corner. Giving that first tap. And then back and forth. You're going to use the whole brush. It's just those tops. Those little tops are very tricky. Once you get that down, if you want to go in with a smaller brush, go for it. Now, same thing, just the corner of the brush. A couple little taps. You could go back through this as many times as you wish, especially since you don't really want to see the trunk. That little line that we create, really, it's just there for guidance. Okay, same thing. Take the corner, give them a pull. Now, these guys are usually the easiest to start off with. So if you want to go ahead and try one, do with the one over here. Because it's so dark anyways, you don't really overly see them as much. And I love little leaner trees. They're survivors. Okay, so these are our trees off. Now, if you want to afterwards, if I just go ahead and clean off the brush, go in to touch my yellow. So it works a little bit better when it's a little drier. But you don't want, white is usually okay, but we're so close to that summer point, that spring, but we still have the snow on the ground. We have a tendency to pull a little bit too much white right now, and it will look like snow. Now, if you love snow, whatever makes you happy. Now, for the next part, I'm going to show you with the ugly brushes. I'm going to show you with a fan brush. So this is going to give you a good variety. These are really cheap brushes. So back in the day, they used to do, Michael's had buy a pack of canvases and get these brushes. Now they look super ugly. They're very long. The first time I taught with this, I actually poked myself in the eye because they were so long. See the difference? They're huge. But they're ugly as in the fact that they're very, very stiff. So they're stiff brushes, which is not a bad thing. And I'm going to show you with all of these. Now they all have a different variety. Your fan brush is going to give you more of ferns. This is just a regular small. It's actually falling apart. And then this one is one of the cheap brushes. And then here is my dollar store brush. So I'm going to show you with all three. So this one I'll stir off because he's a broken one. So I'm going to go in green, a little yellow. Now it's okay since we already have the black and it's still a little on the wet side. Got a little all I'm doing is I'm just tapping. Tapper, 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 tapper. Now this one's perfect just because this is such a small little area. I'm going to show you with the ugly brush. This is the cheap one. I think they're like $5 for the whole pack or whatever. Okay, so same kind of feel. It's pretty ugly. You can see it's pulling up some of the black. That's exactly what you want. And I'm going to show you with the big, this is the dollar store brush. I know like Family Dollar is still open. And back in the hardware area, they have those too. So if you have to go grab some toilet paper or something. Okay, so I'm also going to show you how to do, with this brush, some grass. I just tap, giving a little pull coming on up. You've got little grass. Now, if you don't like the grass, tap right on over it. Now, this could be nice and bright. This is your own magical little area. I won't go too high up over here. I want to see my little trees. Now, this is your fan brush. There are two ways to the fan brush. There is the happy way, which kind of swoops up this way, like a smiley face, and there's a sad way, and it just kind of goes this way. So happy, sad. And you can see, it's hard to be able to see it straight on. The happy, it just turns ever so slightly. So I want it on the sad side. I kind of like that feel of how it kind of folds on over. And all I'm going to do, just give a couple of taps. Now, this could be like ferns. Now, what you can also do, I'm going to go wipe off the brush, if you would like to have a little bit of color. And as you can see, I left a lot of this black area open. Please do that. These kind of give you these tall, kind of like little flowers. You just give part way. Now, I always have a tendency to go in with my pinks. Pinks make me happy. If you get too much, just tap it off. You have it leaning over towards the water, so see how that one kind of flows this way. Okay, so if you have any of your brown, you could also take just a little bit of your brown. Ooh, grab a little bit of my white there too. And just give a couple, especially closest to you where you would see the actual dirt. Now, a lot of these could be shadows too. This could be shadows in your water. I'll go in. I'll show you some pink. Pink. I like to paint a little bit of pink. Now, if you don't have a fan brush, what you can also do is just take a regular, smaller brush, white and reds, just hitting with just the corner. And I like to turn the brush as I'm going. Okay, so this is white and red. Oh, grab a little more red. Okay, and if there's a cluster, say you don't like this area that has too much, go right back in with your greens and give a little tap right on over. I'll go back in with my pinks. The beauty with acrylic, it's so forgiving. Don't overthink it. Enjoy this. This is your time to really explore some paint and to enjoy the whole aspect of painting. I'll also show you with a clean fan brush how to do a little bit more of a water flow, just a little bit of your white. I'm going to tap up just a little bit excess. And then all I'm going to do, just kind of dragging ever so slightly, very gentle, back and forth. Okay, so just ever so slightly. This gives you a little bit of flow coming right at you. And if you want to have some hitting your shorelines, just going to be nice and generous with my white. All right. And then the very last thing that we do, now this is probably safest with a permanent marker if you're working on small. So if it's a small, you just want to make sure this is dry before you do it. But we're just going to make one bird, two birds. So if it's a bigger, you could go ahead and use a small brush, but a permanent marker works just as good. And the very last thing I do, I'm going to find the perfect brush. Now, any brush, it kind of looks like this. Okay, so it's kind of fluffy. I'm going to just take a little bit of water, dip into my white. And what I'm going to just sit right there for a minute. I'm just going to tap it off. Any excess, tap it right off. So this is on the water side, dipping into your white. Now, if you want to put something over the top, in case you don't want snow, if you do get any in a different area that you don't want it to be, if you just take a clean finger, that's always hard for me, I'm just gonna rub it on in. Or if it's in the tree, just give it a little dab. You can go right back over with your, and you have a awesome, this is the rainbow moon. Totally love this one, so I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope to see you here next time, and until we meet again.